welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing here a chill session where we're going to be talking about a new deck that I'm actually starting to build in this particular case, and hopefully we could actually put out a deck profile pretty soon on this as well. But I figured I may as well just talk about each of these individual cards, and that way we could get a better idea of what they can actually do and somewhat form a strategy behind building a deck behind it. Of course, I would definitely be keen to hear your ideas as well on what you want to see in the deck, but with that being said, let's just get started. But if you enjoyed this kind of video, then definitely drop a like, share, comment, and consider subscribing. It really does help. But to begin here, we have our Jinzo, the Machine Menace. Now this card is actually the new card that obviously came out in Rage of Ra, a really amazing card. And I may as well also put it alongside the original Jinzos as well, just because it is technically the new boss monster that you would play as an alternative. So I actually have two Jinzos over here, the third one being right here. So we all know what the original Jinzo does. It essentially just stops all trap cards on the board, which is absolutely amazing, of course. However, the difference is that with Jinzo the Machine Menace, well, firstly, this one's actually a level 7, so definitely not great in that circumstance if we need to do tribute summonings, but obviously it does have an easier way of actually summoning itself out. Essentially, if a trap card that is face up on the field or either in the graveyard, then you could just special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, it also becomes 6 until the end of this turn. So that also obviously opens up leeway for you to go into XC's plays, and you can actually go into that, of course, but it does actually take a bit of plays to actually get you to go into that. So you would have Jinzo and the Machine Menace as well, both copies available in the deck itself. Now, as a quick effect during your main phase, you do have the option to also tribute this card to special summon the original Jinzo from your hand or graveyard, and then you could also just destroy all traps your opponent controls. If a card is set, then you basically just get to reveal it, which is nice because you essentially just get to look at what your opponent set down. So if they have like a bluff, for example, I've seen opponents who have actually just set down an Invocation. They might even set down a Cosmic Cyclone as well. That way, when you actually know what they have, you can pretty much just prepare your plays in your own way, which is definitely fantastic, of course. Of course, no matter what kind of build you're playing, most people would be playing at least one copy of the Machine Menace. So now let's actually talk slightly on the ratios here. Some people play just one copy of this and then 3 copies of Jinzo. Some people play just one copy and then 2 copies of Jinzo. Some others also play 2 copies and 2 copies. Some play 2 copies and 1 copy. Some play 3 copies and 1 copy. But with that being said, there is always at least one of each in either or. I've never seen a deck that purely just sticks to one of these entirely. But I have 3 here, so I do have the option to actually go with all 3 of them if I want to. However, I'm thinking that for a bit of just balance between them, I'm going to be playing just 2 copies of each one. Just because it just seems like a really nice option in this case. Of course, if you guys feel otherwise, definitely let me know. But with that being said, let's just put these away now, and let's talk about a different card that is actually within the deck itself as well. So the next card we have here is the Psychic Bounder. Definitely a fantastic card, and I'm also going to be talking slightly about the Mega Cyber as well. And Mega Cyber, I specifically only chose to keep 1 copy of it because I've only seen decks, no matter what profiles I've actually seen for other people's decks, they only play 1 copy, and yeah, it just seems to be the way you actually go with that particular card. Of course, you can only special summon 1 of these per turn anyway, so having 1 copy is great. It just prevents any potential bricking if you happen to draw into 2 copies. So playing 1 just works, and all you need to summon it out is for your opponent to have more spells and traps than you do, which can be pretty easily achieved if this is your first turn card. Now, the great thing about this particular card is while you also control Jinzo, if you're actually going for an attack with the opponent's monster, then you could just tribute this card and then force that monster onto the spell and trap zone. Now that's really powerful because that particular effect is a particular effect that people like to use against Dragoons, which is definitely fantastic, of course, and knowing that, I'm going to be playing at least one copy of it. Now as for the Psychic Bounders, it is also quite interesting. Obviously, as soon as it's summoned, you just add any Jinzo or a spell trap that specifically lists Jinzo in its card text, so that's definitely fantastic. So you could obviously play 3, I've seen some builds play 2 of course. Now the other secondary effect is when another monster you control is attacked by an opponent's monster, before damage calculations you just pretty much get to destroy both monsters, this one being one of them. It's not the main effect there of course, you will really just want to play this for the first effect, but with that being said, it is normally one of those early cards that you start off with as the searcher, so I'm just thinking this would be a really nice ratio for it. Now I would like to also briefly mention here the Jinzo Return and Jinzo Ejector. Both cards are definitely playable in the deck, though I only see myself playing one copy of it. It's just because this card is really nice for its effect, allowing you to summon back your Jinzo from the graveyard if this is sent. So you could just use this card as link material and it works out either way, or you use it for any kind of circumstance and it still works. But one copy is nice because obviously when you're going first, you're not going to have Jinzo in the graveyard. So what you want to do is have the Jinzo Returner be only specific when you already have a Jinzo in the graveyard. As for Ejector, it could pretty much just become Jinzo while on the field or graveyard, making it a little bit more viable with the Returner of course. And then you could obviously tribute this card and also add a Jinzo monster from your deck to your hand, which is definitely fantastic. That's really just the main thing that you want to focus on. Then of course you can reveal some face down cards as well on your opponent's side of the field, so again you get the opportunity to look at your opponent's cards, and if there's any traps for each one, you just get to summon out a Jinzo from your hand. Definitely very powerful. But as you can see here, both these cards, they only are applicable when it comes to only one copy of it. I don't see myself playing more than one copy of either or. And unfortunately for the Jinzo Lord, after reading the effects, it just doesn't seem like the card that would be played in the deck. I mean, you could try to play one if you want to, for the sake of playing every single card in the deck of course, but there's really no need to force yourself into this. I might build a specific deck that focuses on Jinzo Lord, but aside from that, I'm not going to bother playing it. So let's talk about the spells. So we have over here the 3 copies of the Law of the Cosmos. We have the Everlasting Alloy, and we also have here the Cyber Energy Shock. Definitely really amazing cards. I do also obviously have the extra copies of them as well, so if you guys are wondering, they are right here. But the reason why I sleeved up these ones is because I'm actually planning on playing that particular copies in the deck. Now, they're not actually cards that are commonly played in the Jinzo deck. A lot of people would actually want to play Psychic Wave. Now, Psychic Wave is a card that I unfortunately do not have in this deck. So one of these cards is essentially just acting as the proxy for the Psychic Wave. I'll put a picture of it on the screen of course for you guys to see what Psychic Wave actually is, but if I actually owned that copy of a card, then I would play exactly one copy in the deck itself. Psychic Wave is just a really nice card to help the deck itself, but there's no need to play any more copies of that, and in any kind of build you really wouldn't push yourself to play an extra copy. Same thing applies for these 2 cards of course, because this one is obviously just very specific to Jinzo itself, allowing you to do some stuff, but of course you also have to destroy a trap to actually have the other 2 effects be applicable. So being so specific and being the fact that not many people play that many traps, it's not going to really work out. And as for the Everlasting Alloy, obviously you have to control Jinzo, but it's a little bit more applicable in this case. It's more so a means to protect, but that's pretty much it to it. But yeah, with that being said, we do have here the most important one. We have Law of the Cosmos. Now this is a really amazing card because your opponent just gets to set one trap directly from your hand or the deck, but then if they did, then you get to special summon one Jinzo from your deck, and if they did not, you get to add a Jinzo anyway. or a card that specifically lists Jinzo, which is definitely fantastic, of course. So it really is up to your opponent what they want to do. In this particular case, it's most likely the fact that you're just going to search for a card anyway, given that not many decks will be playing trap cards, but if they did and if they wanted to really just set it down, then by all means feel free to bring out Jinzo. I mean, this deck, although it encourages the opponent to play traps, it's not like they're going to be able to do anything anyway as long as you're playing Jinzo. Now you guys might be wondering, what about Cosmos Channeling and what about Amplifier? Both cards are okay. I might consider playing Amplifier, but in this particular circumstance I probably won't. Again, I would listen to what you guys would actually have to say first, and then I would consider building the deck to a certain way. But for now, I just don't feel any of these cards actually are fitting for the deck itself, and there's a lot of better options that might be generic but still better. And then finally we have over here the trap card Psychic Shockwave. Also a really nice card, but of course specific to your opponent actually activating a trap card, so it just doesn't apply as much in this particular format anymore, which is quite unfortunate, of course, unless we have a format where trap heavy decks actually exist. So maybe if we had a format where Paleozoics and Altgeist were actually the top decks, then yeah, in that case Psychic Shockwave might actually be worth playing in the deck. Otherwise, in this case, it doesn't really apply. Now as for some other cards I wanted to consider, obviously there is the basic machine support like limiter removal. That is definitely going to be great, and for Xyz monsters you want to play a bunch of machine supports, so the Iron Wolf, you could play obviously Gear Gigant X, definitely all great of course because it is a Jinzo deck. And as for hand traps, I also consider just basic stuff like Nibiru, but you could also play like the Cyframe Gear Engine as well. You know, you're obviously having a bunch of high level monsters like the Jinzo, and you don't really have too many low level monsters. In that case, the Cyframe Gamma actually does synergize with this deck quite well, given that you're not likely to have a monster on the field at all times. So the Cyframe Gear Gamma actually does work out quite well for this build. Now of course there is one more card I wished I had, and that would be the Jinzo Layered, and that is pretty much the Xyz monster. Unfortunately I never actually got a copy of it. If I actually did, I'll definitely add it into the deck, so when I do the deck profile I would definitely have to proxy that card in. But I would play only one copy, of course. I'm not going to further push myself into playing extra copies. Though with that being said, I hope this gives you a bit of insight into Jinzos and what my kind of approach might be. But of course, I definitely am keen to hear all of your suggestions, so please let me know what particular builds do you like. I'm sure there are particular styles that people would like to play, or some that people might prefer, so in that particular case, please let me know. But otherwise, I'm not going to be doing a deck profile immediately for tomorrow. I might wait one extra day just to see what you guys actually have to say about this particular archetype, since it's going to be the first time I'll be introducing it onto the channel. But with that being said, thanks for joining me today. I hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll see you all next time. Wow.